there is a growing recognition over the last couple of years that we have new challenges, and we have Russia that is not acting in a way that is consistent with what we had hoped, and as well as China.
All right, there you go. Those aren't really new challenges, but they are challenges of today, too. President Biden is meeting with NATO leaders right now in Brussels ahead of the highly anticipated sit-down with Russian President Vladimir Putin this Wednesday. Joining us now is somebody who knows all these players and has been on the world scene, former U.S. ambassador to the U.N., coming to us from Israel now. And we'll talk about that, ambassador to the U.N., Nikki Haley. Ambassador, great to see you, or governor. Either one of those titles would fit. First off, what's at stake at this NATO meeting today? What would be the two things that you made sure to bring up?
Well, I think what's important at the NATO meeting is, first of all, how do you hold China accountable? And the second thing should have been, three things, I think. One, holding China accountable. Number two, making sure that you call Russia out and acknowledge Nord Stream 2, which is stabbing Ukraine in the back and actually giving Russia a kiss by allowing Biden to go ahead and give that back to Germany. That was a terrible thing. And then I think three, you got to talk about the Iran deal. Like, that's going to be a huge topic, and the G7's been very involved, and Biden's falling over himself to want to get back in the Iran deal. Those are three massive threats that we have to be talking about.
Ambassador, people are caught up in the fact, wow, Donald Trump, a disruptor, is not there, and Joe Biden is. The most predictable headlines ever is, we're so glad to have America back. But in the other big picture, is America back signing on to the Paris deal? Is America back signing back to the Iran deal? Are those things in America's interest, or are they in Europe's interests?
I think what Biden's doing is Obama 2.0. He's going to go back and try and buy friends again. This isn't about having countries like us. This is about having countries respect us. And the way they respect you is when you take hard lines on tough issues. And Biden doesn't seem to be doing that. The idea that the Iran deal is so dangerous, it's a death wish for Israel. We've talked about that here the whole time we've been in Israel. It's a death wish for Israel. They just got over a conflict. You're going to give them money to not only support terrorism, but to build nuclear weapons. Russia just hacked our pipeline. They hacked a meat processing plant. You're going to go meet with Putin. That's fine. You can go meet with Putin, but you just gave him the one gift he wanted, which is access to Nord Stream 2 again. And so he just made Russia a ton of money. I mean, all of these things, and you're going to talk about climate change, and you're going to talk about being friends again. That's not what this is about. The one thing President Trump did was he held his friends and enemies accountable. He said, we will do our part, but everybody else has to do their part. He was nice about it, but they wanted him to just let them get their way. That's not what leading is. Leading is letting countries know what you expect of them and how you're going to partner with them. So that just didn't happen.
Ambassador, people are on the outside are frustrated. They say, well, we put sanctions on Russia forever. We put tariffs on Europe, for goodness sakes. We put tariffs on on China. It seemed to get their attention, but it didn't change their behavior. In fact, China came out and they said they warned the G7 leaders that the days of a small group of countries deciding the fate of the world are long gone. And they also said they adapted a spending plan. They also adapted a spending plan to this Belt and Road program. But it looks like the West is trying to adopt their own, which I think is a step in the right direction, which would be a Build Back Better worldwide plan to help the developing nations to not be extorted by China. But where's the money? Where's the pledge? Where's the strategy?
Well, I think the other side of this is, look, China is going to have a temper tantrum anytime things don't go their way, and they're going to get aggressive and try and intimidate other countries. That's when the U.S. has to be most aggressive, and that's when we have to lead. I actually don't think we have to follow in China's footsteps with our own Belt and Road Initiative. The problem we've had this long is that we keep being symptomatic to China. We have to lead. We have to start getting with our alliances. We have to partner. We need to get with India and Australia and Japan and really make sure that we're boycotting the Chinese Olympics, that we're going to that Wuhan lab and seeing it ourselves and holding the country accountable, that we're making sure that we are making all other countries less dependent on China, making sure we're not relying on pharmaceuticals from them, and actually putting them on notice. And the one thing China wants the most is a strong economy. We've got to make sure that we go back and start sanctioning China again the way President Trump did. That's the way you get to China, is when you don't respond to them, but you get in front of them. them.
Absolutely. Now, if you get their attention by shutting down markets. You're in Israel right now. What dramatic events took place over the weekend? They have, for the first time in 12 years, they have a new prime minister. Do you believe that this is the end for Benjamin Netanyahu, or do you believe this is just a pause in his career? What's the sense on the ground?
Well, look, I mean, Prime Minister Netanyahu has been a friend to America, and he certainly has led. I mean, he was historic in the way that he handled diplomatic, security, and economic issues in Israel, and he raised Israel to a new level. And so we should all be thankful to him for that, but never count him out. You know, he's a survivor. And so what happens from here, it will be interesting to see, but I do congratulate Prime Minister Bennett, and we met today with Foreign Minister Lapid. We also met with Benjamin Netanyahu today, and what we told them both is, look, it doesn't matter which leaders are there. The United States is going to stand with Israel, needs to stand with Israel, and we'll be there. And I'll tell you, for two opposing parties or opposing on challenging sides, both of them brought up one issue, and that's the Iran deal. Both of them said it's a death wish for Israel if Biden gets back into the Iran deal. Both of them said it's one atomic bomb away from the world seeing total disruption. And so, you know, I'll tell you, as having worked with President Trump on getting out of the Iran deal, the one thing we don't want to see happen is give money back to Iran and have the world be a more dangerous place.
Right. Leave Israel alone to act on their own, because they're not going to stand by and watch them do that. Ambassador, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Brian. Great to be with you.
All right.